What is up, YouTube? Matt McKeever here. And so I'm live today. It's March 24th. I think it's important to start saying the dates when I do kind of these live videos or these update videos, kind of talking about the COVID-19 pandemic and just everything related to the economy, life, the universe, and everything. Because we need to understand that we're living in an information cycle that's updating, if not by the second, by the minute. So again, what we talked about yesterday may end up becoming completely irrelevant today. But what I want to talk to everyone about today is the difference between peacetime CEOs and wartime CEOs. And this may be a new concept to a lot of people, and we'll get into it in a second. But the reason I think it's really important that we talk about the difference between peacetime and wartime CEOs is essentially there's a term in startup culture called WIFIO. And so it stands for we're effed, it's over. And now in the life of any startup company or any entrepreneur, to be honest, they're likely going to experience that feeling at some point in time. Now, are we actually WIFIO'd? I don't think so. I think that there are people that are potentially in tough positions, and we should certainly be cognizant and understanding in regards to those positions. Argue with that. A pandemic is a very serious situation. So because we've got this pandemic, that's issue number one. But this is causing a second major issue here, and that's the economic issue. And so again, the economic issue is very concerning because we've had economic issues in the past, but we've never had it compounded with another event occurring at the same time. So because of these unusual circumstances, we need to really be cognizant and understand that data that we use from the past to project the future may in fact even be less relevant today than in other scenarios or situations because we've got both of these risks. As well, it feels like there's a third risk currently developing, and that has more to do with our social bonds. So right now, there's a lot of confrontation going on between the haves and the have-nots. And so I think it's really important that we be aware of this. And, we understand that there's three different issues occurring simultaneously right now in 2020 on March 24th. So what does this all have to do with peacetime and wartime CEOs? Well, on Monday of this week, that would be March 22nd, I gave a speech to my team. And I said, hey, guys, look, we're at a pivotal moment in our business, as well as just a pivotal moment in the world. We're transitioning from a peacetime organization to a wartime organization. And now this was all coined by Ben Horowitz in the book, The Hard Thing About Hard Things. So one, if you guys haven't read that book and you're a CEO, you're a leader, or you're just an entrepreneur looking to maybe start a startup, you absolutely need to read this book. It's fantastic. It's an amazing resource. So I really encourage you to dive in and consume that full book. And that'll give you an even better understanding of peacetime versus wartime CEOs. But a wartime CEO is all about results. Results are what truly matter, what drives revenue. Those are really the only concerns for a wartime CEO. And the thing is, we're focused on making money or saving money as that wartime CEO. And there's a handful of different approaches we can implement in order to help us with that situation. But it's important to understand that peacetime CEO, they can worry about culture. Wartime CEO, the war defines the culture. Peacetime CEO can be making 5-10-year plans. They can be focused on people's feelings, thoughts, and things of that nature. Wartime CEO, it's all about results and numbers. This is just the reality that we're in. By no means do I wish to, instill panic in anyone, because I don't think that panic does anyone any good. But understanding and focusing on what's under our control and what's beyond our control, and focusing on those items that we have control. So if you're transitioning now from a peacetime CEO to a wartime CEO like myself, Matt McKeever is, here's what we really need to be dialed in on and aware of in general. We need to either every single day be cutting expenses or every single day be adding revenue, or ideally, we're doing both every single day as that wartime CEO. So you just need to be always focused on the details and the data. in times of peace, we can afford to be high level. We can take that 20,000 foot view. During times of war, no detail is too insignificant for us to care about. No fact is too insignificant. No contract, no customer is too insignificant for us to ignore. So it's really important that we understand that this is a paradigm shift. If you're going from peacetime to wartime as a business or a CEO, you need to understand this is a difference in kind, not a difference in degree. A difference in degree is gradual or slight. This is dramatic. This is a shift. So the way I explained it to my team and my organization, and in fact, I plan on releasing to you guys tomorrow the entire 40 minutes or 1 hour talk I gave unedited to my team, because I want to live by transparency. That's one of my core values. So tomorrow at some point, we're going to be releasing that entire video. But what I was really focused on was making sure that the team understood that the past, those were the good old days. Those were the fat years. That's when times were easy. Now we're in a time of war. We need to double down. We need to take more action. We need to put in more effort, and we need to just forget excuses. Excuses no longer exist. All that exists now for us is results and putting numbers on the board. That's just the reality that we're in, or at least that's the reality I believe we're transitioning to as a wartime CEO. So this is even applicable, even if you're not a CEO or a business owner. Maybe you're just a landlord. Maybe you're just a real estate investor, or maybe you're just the CEO of your household. Maybe you're the primary breadwinner, right? Maybe you're the person that earns the income, or maybe you and your spouse split it. But if you're the CEO, whether it's of your personal household, your real estate investing, or a business like a real enterprise, what we need to focus on first is determine our burn rate. So if you don't know what you're spending in a given week or a given month, this is an issue. Whether you're, again, a business, a real estate investor, or just a personal individual, we need to understand what we're spending every month and then focus on what's unnecessary. And we need to be constantly reviewing for unnecessary expenses, and we need to cut them so that we can continue to be a lean, mean, functioning machine. The goal is to stay in business, not to stay in the same business we were in. So that's another big distinction between wartime and peacetime CEOs. In times of peace, those CEOs may say things like, we're only going to focus on the 1 or 2 products that add the greatest margin to our business. In times of war, what makes you money is what you do. And we need to be much more dynamic and faster and agile in a war economy versus in times of peace as a CEO. So once we've reviewed and started cutting out those expenses, we need to really just internalize this and continuously be vigilant in regards to reducing our expenses. As well, again, reality being what it is, we need to review our debt obligations and payment schedules and timelines. And we need to review those and determine what can we make minimum payments on, because liquidity is key. Liquidity presents options to you as a business owner, as a real estate investor, or even just as an individual household. Having access to cash, having access to liquidity is absolutely crucial in my opinion. So this is not the time to pay off all your debts in full unless you need to. This is not the time to make the maximum payments paying down debt. What we should be focused on is just making our minimum obligations on those debts, as well as reaching out to our lenders and seeing if there's an opportunity to renegotiate. Can I move to interest-only payments? Can I defer payments? Can I skip a payment? Let's get real clarity about what our options are, and let's start implementing those actions now so we can position ourselves to be in an even better liquidity position. This is extremely important, guys. You need to take your liquidity as being like one of the key drivers of your business. Again, whether you're a business owner, a real estate investor, or we're just talking about your personal household income. So again, we need to constantly be willing to reach out and renegotiate as necessary so that we can smooth our cash demands. Even if you've got a reserve for 1 or 2 months, realistically, the big consequence of, say, deferring a payment, having a little bit of interest expense or anything of that nature, that doesn't really matter. That's truly all noise. And what's really important is that you guys understand that that's just noise. Ignore that noise and focus on the data. You know, that $1,000 in random interest expense or fees that maybe you got charged because you deferred a payment or you skipped a payment for a month or two, not big deal if we return to business as usual. If we return to business as usual, well, then fine. You know, you can absorb that small, insignificant cost. If things don't return to business as usual, well, now you're in a better, more liquid position. This means that 1, you can weather the storm if it gets worse, Or if there's opportunities, we can also take advantage. And that's what's really important to understand as a wartime CEO as well. We're not simply playing triage. We're still actively looking to grow our business, but we're growing in a smarter, leaner environment than we would have done so in the past. As well, we're probably going to see a lot of employers choose to move to contract situations with employees or former positions that maybe were employees during these uncertain, volatile times. So it's just important that we understand exactly where we're at, both as that business owner, the real estate investor, and your personal household income. The other side of the equation, other than just looking at trying to reduce expenses, is how can we increase our income? So first things first, regardless of what business, industry, or even if we're talking about your personal household, everything is a contact sport now, which maybe sounds a little counterintuitive because we're under self-quarantine and isolation because of COVID-19, but it really is. So your network, more than ever before, is your net worth. So what relationships have you been building for the last weeks, months, years, decades, or lifetimes? Those relationships are more valuable than ever because those can't be lost just because of a recession if you were building real relationships. But this is like what Warren Buffett talks about when the tide goes out. We're going to see who's naked, who was being super transactional in the recent economy, and who was building deep, lasting relationships and bonds. And those bonds aren't necessarily just with our customers or our employees. That's everything. So again, even as an individual isolated household, who have you and your family members been building bonds and relationships with? If you haven't been doing that, now is the time to absolutely pivot to that model. And if we're talking about a business or a real estate investor, this is when you need to be hitting the phones. You need to make as many phone calls as possible every single day. You need to be just talking to everyone. If you're in quarantine and you currently feel like you have nothing to do, the number one priority you should be taking is making connections, building relationships, so that regardless of whether we move into a new economy or we return to where we once were, you're going to be in a better position because now you've been putting in the effort, the time, and energy to build those deep bonds. The other great thing is everyone else has a lot of time now to network. They're all at home too. They're all self-isolated as well. So let's take advantage of that. And again, reach out, make people aware, post in networking groups like, hey, I've got some time to kill. Who wants to chat? Who wants to hang? Who wants to build some relationships? Who's an entrepreneur or business owner that's struggling right now? I'm willing to be that sounding board. And this is also important. If you're in a fortunate position, you need to make yourself available. So I've already mentioned this on my IG and Facebook, but I also want to mention it here to YouTube. If you're currently going through that withio, that sense or that feeling that, oh my God, we're effed, it's over for me or my business or whatever, I do want you to reach out to me on social media. DM me on Instagram, DM me on Facebook, and just leave me that little acronym, WFIO. Lead with that. And if you lead with that, I promise I'm going to respond to you because I know a lot of my fellow entrepreneurs are really struggling at this time. It's very painful having to do layoffs, whether they're voluntary or obligated layoffs to your staff. I know that there's a lot of haters and trolls out there as well. They're going to jump on you, make fun of you, point at you, this, that, and the other. Oh, you got too over leveraged. You grew too fast. That's all noise, guys. Let's focus on the data. Let's focus on the signal, which is what's under my control now and what can I do in the future. So again, if you find yourself in a really unfortunate position as an entrepreneur or a household, reach out to me. And if nothing else, I'll be that sounding board for you because I know there's a lot of negativity, a lot of hate out there. And it's unfortunate because that just compounds a bad situation. No employer wants to lay off staff. No employer wants to go through what they're going through right now. But at the same time, we need to be understanding of everyone's perspective. So also no employee wants to be going through what they're going through right now. Even if you're still keeping your employees employed, they're constantly looking at the calendar. They're looking at the clock, waiting for the other shoe to fall. So this is a time where I think transparency is key. This is how we're going to build relationships that last not just through the next day, the next week, the next month, the next quarantine. We're going to build relationships that last a freaking lifetime, in my opinion. So that's why I'm saying if anyone's going through withio, I want you to reach out to me and I want to try and help you in whatever capacity I can. But please also, if you're in a fortunate position, consider reaching out to other people and making yourself available. Again, even if it's just as a sounding board, that sounding board can be so valuable. So I really want to encourage you guys to just do what you can for each other and everyone else because we truly are all in this together. And then finally, when we're talking about generating revenue and what's under our control, every single day, the first thing you should be doing is looking at what we call our money sheet and our parking lot. And on the money sheet, that's activities that will literally put money in the bank account today. What can you do today as a CEO, as whether that's of your business, real estate, or your household? What's under your control that you can generate some revenue from today? Let's figure that out. Let's get back control of the situation. Way too many people are just flailing about panicking when that produces nothing. It helps no one. And all it is doing is creating a lot more stress for yourself. What you need to do is take a beat, take a breath, think through this logically, and focus on what's under our control. If the government's essentially made your business illegal because of quarantine or restrictions, accept that. So at that point in time, it's about either can I start building and booking future business, or do I need to pivot my business model? This is a great time for people that were successful in their industry to pivot to consulting potentially. Are there people that are currently going to be seeking your advice while your business is slowed down or shut down? As well, this is a great time to start fostering relationships with your staff and your employees. If your business is really slowing down, well, let's start building even deeper bonds with our employees in case we get to that precipice where all of a sudden we're going to have to do layoffs. Let's make sure that we're building the right relationship so that if and when we can come back to business, that we're able to grow and scale up and get back to where we were or even improve beyond that as fast as possible. So we need to be focusing on today and tomorrow, not yesterday. And that's what's really critical, in my opinion, for the wartime CEOs, or those of you that are about to become wartime CEOs, is we need to focus on our core business. We need to focus on producing revenue. We need to focus on reducing expenses. We need to focus on getting to play the game one more day. So again, I view this kind of like a video game where I want to keep making sure I've got one more life. And one of the best ways is to make sure that you're staying liquid during these uncertain times. So make sure that you have the financial resources to weather the storm. And again, as say a real estate investor, what we can be looking at doing is maybe we get a second mortgage if we're concerned that none of our tenants are going to pay our rent, and we can use that to help weather the storm. Not an ideal situation, but better than waiting until we desperately need that money and finding out that the secondary mortgage market has dried up. What you can currently do today and take action upon is what you need to do. You have a responsibility to yourself, to your household, to your family, as well as to your employees, to your business, to the culture that you built. And that's something important too. A lot of people look at businesses or landlords going out of business now and just whatever. These people have often sunk their entire lives and all their energy into their business. And it's really important that we be cognizant of that fact, because I know for myself, I am so committed to the culture here in our organization. That's the number one thing that I'm focused on, is creating a business that operates essentially unlike any other business. Because I can remember working for a faceless, publicly traded corporate entity that didn't care about me, that I was truly a number on. And I wanted to change what it meant to work for a business, to be a productive member of society. And that's why I've created this little corner of the world that I sometimes refer to as Neverland, because I really want it to be different than anything else out there. And so for me, I'm going to fight tooth and nail to make sure that I get to keep what I've been focused on building for so long. But at the same time, it's really important we don't get too precious about how our business worked in the past. We're transitioning now into wartime. There are going to have to be changes to your business. You are going to have to make sacrifices and cuts. As a CEO or the leader, you're probably going to have to take a pay cut. You're probably going to have to reduce your expenses. I've never got paid once from this business, the media, the real estate stuff, because I've always been focused on reinvesting the profits. But even with that being said, I've constantly been focused on growing as fast as possible as well, because I wanted to scale. And so I think it's important, the law of entrepreneurs, don't get their ego tied up in having to scale back a little bit. It's better to scale back a little bit and survive and weather any storm, rather than to just literally hold the line and try and be that fearless person that ignores all facts and reason. It's really important that we be open and honest with ourselves with the data. So you need to be constantly focused on data, not drama, as we say at Cashflow Tribe. And then finally, the last thing I really want to give you guys as a takeaway from this talk, and I hope you enjoyed the live stream, is you also need to take care of yourself. So you don't get too stressed out about your business or your personal employment situation. You need to make sure that you're sleeping 8 hours a day. You need to make sure that you're eating a balanced diet. And then you need to make sure that you're partaking in some sort of physical movement or activity as well. This is no time to find yourself or your body in a bad spot. You want to make sure that you're optimized in as many facets as possible so that if more stress or more concerns get added to your plate, that you're in a position to take them on. So again, don't sacrifice sleep. Don't spend all night, refreshing the death counter. That's unproductive activities. What we need to focus on, what's under my control? What can I do today to generate revenue? What can I do today to reduce expenses? What can I do to survive one more day? If you find yourself in that whiffio position, that idea that we're effed, it's over, you need to take this seriously now, and you need to consider scaling back to a degree. I know I see a lot of other entrepreneurs being like, I'm not going to let anyone go, Either they're in a much more fortunate position than the average entrepreneur, which tip of the hat to them, or they're deluding themselves and they're trying to lead based upon some sort of blind courage, in my opinion. And I just personally don't see the value in doing that. But again, it comes down to your core values as an organization. One of our core values is transparency. So every single week, we share with our team exactly where our bank account balance is so that they really understand in real time how our situation's evolving. So that's it, guys. I've got no silver bullets for you, but I think it's really important that we all transition from peacetime CEOs to wartime CEOs. I really appreciate you guys. I hope you're safe. I hope you're having a good time during quarantine, making the best of it, because, if you can't make the best of your current situation, you're going to constantly be in a negative place. And I don't want to see you guys there. So remember, what's under our control is what we should focus on. What's beyond our control, we should be aware of, but not dwell on. I really appreciate you guys. Keep it up. And I'll probably see you in some future live streams, because I think we're going to keep this reoccurring, because one, I want to do real-time lively data for my YouTube audience. Because the thing that happens is I shoot a video like on March 13th, release it on the 15th, and then the second one comes out on the 20th. And all of a sudden, the world's completely changed from one point in time to another. So a reminder, if you're watching this on the replay, this was shot March 24th. I have no idea what the future holds. My opinion, my perspective may change dramatically. And I'm going to be open to that data as it becomes available to me. All right. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate you. I'll see you on the next live stream.